Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be telling you the story of how I gave birth to twins. I'm going to tell you the story of the entire couple of days leading up to it, and we have two special guests that don't want to sleep today. So they're joining us. If you'd like to hear this story time, then keep on watching. So on September 6th, I was feeling off. I had a really hard end of my pregnancy. I didn't feel good. I was in a lot of pain. I was carrying two babies. I wasn't feeling great, and I started having contractions, and I started timing them. They were about 5 minutes apart, and they were going on for a couple hours, and I didn't tell anyone. I felt bad, so I brought my daughter to the park because she wanted to go, and I don't know, I just felt bad. So I brought her to the park, and when we were there, they started to hurt a bit more. I was meeting my friend there who had just had her baby, and I started to tell her, and she was like, you should probably tell someone. So I called my husband, who was working at the time, and he came in the cruiser in uniform to the park. And he's like, we need to go to the hospital. And I was like, no, Lily wants to be at the park. I want to spend some time with Lily. We're not going. Like, I'm fine. At this point, I was only 33 and 5 days pregnant, or 4 days pregnant. And I was like, there's just no way. I had manifested my entire pregnancy that I was not going to have NICU time, that I was going to make it to 35. So then I called my mother, who is an EMT, and she came down in uniform and was like, you need to just call the hospital, which the hospital I had to go to because I was having twins was about an hour and a half away. So I called them, and they were like, you should probably just come down and get checked. It doesn't sound great. Like, just come and get checked. So we drove, and I didn't tell my husband, but I tracked the contractions the whole ride, and they were progressively getting worse. And then once we got there, I was like, would you like to know how many contractions I just had? And he's like, oh my God. So we got to the emergency room. I was not in a lot of pain, so I did not go first. I had to wait in the waiting room for a little while. We finally got called in. They checked me, and I was only a 1, which was good news. And so they just kept me for a little while. I think it was like an hour of just monitoring the twins, having the band on. And after an hour, they checked me again, and I was 3 centimeters dilated. So they were like, you're staying, you need to be admitted, it's time to go upstairs. Like, the fact that I went to 3 centimeters, they were still going to try to hold off labor, but at that point, they decided to give me my first steroid shot, which was almost the worst part of my entire labor and delivery, was the steroid shot. At this point, I wasn't having a lot of contractions. I didn't feel them. Like, I was having a lot on the screen, but I was not feeling them. So we went upstairs, we got admitted, and my contractions seemed to slow down, but I was still dilating slightly. Everything started to slow down. Miss Evelyn, we found out her umbilical cord was connected to the placenta on the side instead of in the middle. She was dropping down into the 10th percentile, and it just was like, we're at a safe place now. Let's just get them out. So they wanted to wait another 24 hours so that I could get my steroid shot. And realistically, they wanted to wait another 24 after that for it to fully work. But at that point, it was like, let's just get them out. So that's when they decided to do an ultrasound. My entire pregnancy, well, at least towards the end, they were both heads down, and I was told I could deliver vaginally. And last second, so just a couple days before I haven't had an ultrasound, they were both head down. Miss Adeline had turned. Don't know where she came up with this room, but she turned, and her head was in my right rib cage, her butt went across, and her feet were down. So she wasn't even really feet down. She was just, I don't even know how she got where she was. So they had a breech team come in. Luckily, this hospital had a breech team. They called a doctor who was willing to still try. So my options were, do you want to try for a vaginal? Addie's going to come out feet first, or she could fall head first, but they didn't think that would happen. Or do you want to just do a C-section? I did not want to do a C-section. I want to try, you know? So we waited. They got me to 34 weeks with 2 steroid shots. I was exactly 34 weeks. They were very happy that I had made it that far. That's really good numbers for twins, and they were both measuring around 4 pounds. So we decided to just try. So they came and got me. Well, I got my epidural. They called in for an epidural before they broke my water, and my epidural was no fun. I think because I'm older now, this time I was a lot more scared. It was very scary. It didn't hurt. They never hurt. This was my second one. They just pop and crunch and uncomfortable. I skipped this whole part. I instantly started getting numb on one side of my body and not the other, and I knew right away, this is not going to end well. I know for a fact my epidural was placed incorrectly. So after a couple hours, I must have gotten to a 10 at this point, and 10 centimeters dilated, and I was like, I couldn't cry, I couldn't scream, I couldn't yell, I couldn't do anything. I could feel every single contraction. I was in so much pain. I jokingly say that I saw Jesus in the room because I was in so much pain. I was feeling every single contraction, and they weren't stopping because at this point, 10 centimeters, but no one knew yet. So called the nurse in. I was like, get the anesthesiologist in here. I didn't say it like that, but they could tell I was in pain. He came in, he's like, we can redo it, but at this point, it's getting kind of like close to the end. And in a second, he said that, and I was like, I need to use the bathroom. I need to go poop right now. I need to go right now. And he was like, it's time to go. And I was like, no, I'm telling you, like, I need to use the bathroom right. I need to push right the second. Oh, she bonked. He's like, call for the OR right now. So no one was really ready for the OR. They got me in there. They wouldn't let Matt in. The NICU team was nowhere to be found. They were the last to show up. They even made a joke, like, of course, NICU's last to show up. But they didn't let Matt in for a little while. It felt like an hour, but it was probably like 5 minutes of them just putting me on the operating table. So they put me on the operating table. They were just getting an ultrasound. They wanted to check on the babies. They were getting doctors together and ready. And yeah, so then I was like, can my husband please come in? They let him in. I looked at the anesthesiologist and said, if I freak out, knock me out. Because at this point, we don't know if I'm going to deliver one and go into a C-section. We don't know what's going to happen. So I looked at him and said, if I freak out, knock me out. Put me to sleep, please. He was like, okay. So they said push. I could feel my contractions, so I could feel what I was doing. Unlike my first delivery, I couldn't feel what I was doing. I could feel this time. Pushed Miss Evelyn out head first, in probably 2-3 pushes. And then she came out. She was beautiful. They put her on me for a second, and then a NICU team took her away. She was still in the room with me, but she took her away. She cried right away. I remember saying, oh my God, she looks so big, because we thought she was going to be so tiny. I really didn't know what to expect. So you're going to hear noises now. I put them down. But so then it was time for Addie, and I didn't have enough time really to get scared. So they switched doctors. The one that just delivered Evelyn, she moved, and the one that was on the breech team who was comfortable doing a breech extraction stepped in place. And there was about 15 people in the room. The doctor had to look at me and say, just look at me. Just listen to me. They had an ultrasound on my stomach at that point, and she reached in. She grabbed both of Addie's ankles, and she said, you push, and I'm pulling. And I pushed Addie out in 2 minutes. They were almost born on different days because it was almost midnight. And that is the day we delivered. Addie didn't really get to come on my chest because her cord was really, really short. So she really was low. Matthew got to cut both the cords, which was very special. And you don't know if that's going to be an option when you have twins. And it was still a very special day. We got wheeled out and we got to ring the bell 2 times. Having NICU babies, having preemie babies is a very different experience, and I will forever have PTSD. I can share my NICU experience, but that would be a whole different video because it's not as pleasant as my delivery was. But that is the delivery story of having these two little nuggets. It was very special. It was beautiful. It was scary. But I was very lucky. I had no tearing. And I healed very quickly. And yeah, that's the story. Say